Jacinta strode confidently back into the dining room, holding a white envelope. She handed it to Ibier, who smiled knowingly. The envelope was thick, stuffed with money. Blessing sat nearby, watching as usual. Blessing didn't truly celebrate these moments, but she understood their importance. She'd once told Seb, "If you want to get anywhere in this country, you need to be able to call the likes of the Ikekas family friends." Ibiera, without hesitation, slipped the envelope into a nondescript blue carrier bag. No one would suspect it held $3,000 for a gold jewelry set ordered from Dubai. Carrier bags had that kind of reputation, Blessing thought to herself. No one expects them to hold anything valuable. A thief would have better luck looting a luxurious bus than raiding a Moluwe. Ibier's presence filled the room with an air of authority. She wasn't just any woman. She was a social powerhouse. Her curves, accentuated by the dark blue dress she wore, drew admiration. She walked with the confidence of someone who had mastered the art of appearances, a woman who knew that success was measured by perception. Blessing had heard about her long before this meeting. Ibier's reputation preceded her. She was known as a business magnate, a connector of power, and a woman who could open doors to the most influential politicians. She was more than just a middlewoman. Ibier was the ex-wife of a former federal ministry director general and had worked with politicians, parastatals, and business tycoons. Her clientele trusted her to deliver luxury from cities like Dubai, Milan, Paris, and New York. No checks, no cards, just cash. Ibier's trade was an exclusive club, Harrods, for the elite of Egovia. Every transaction was in cash, and every client was vetted. She never counted money in front of her customers. Their status ensured trust. Those who wanted to stay in her good graces often handed her extra cash, jara, as a token of appreciation. This guaranteed they remained on her priority list, her gold card customers. Any client who tried to shortchange her or, worse, asked for credit, would lose access to her services. Their social standing would take a hit, and the whole town would know about it. Politicians fallen from grace knew better than to cross her. Blessing observed Ibier closely. There was so much to learn from this woman. Her aura, her connections, her business acumen. It was all enviable. This wasn't just about wealth. It was about power and privilege. To be Ibier's customer was a status symbol. To be associated with her was to signal success. Blessing knew she had to keep cultivating relationships like this. She sat quietly, sipping her champagne and imagining the possibilities. Blessing sat silently on the plush sofa, her gaze fixed on the two large suitcases spread open before her. She stared at the contents in disbelief. Rows of glittering jewelry, gold bangles, diamond-studded trinkets, and pendants in all shapes and sizes. Each piece sparkled as if it had been hand-picked from the finest stores in Dubai. The cases were like treasure chests, with some items wrapped in transparent plastic, others nestled in velvet-lined boxes. Blessing's breath caught as she imagined owning just one of these exquisite pieces. She had never been to Dubai, but these cases brought the city's famed jewelry shops alive in her mind. Blessing shifted her attention to Jacinta, who stood across the room, her posture radiating confidence. It was clear to Blessing that her friend had changed. Jacinta's new role as the wife of an honorable member had elevated her. It was not just the title, it was the wealth and privilege that came with it. Her expensive clothes, designer shoes, and the glittering jewelry she now wore announced her arrival in a new social stratum. Jacinta no longer needed to travel abroad for luxury. Now it came to her doorstep at her command, a status symbol that only a select few enjoyed. Blessing felt a pang of resentment. Jacinta's transformation reminded her of a peahen proudly displaying her plumage. She looked smug, like a praying mantis after decapitating its mate. Blessing's frustration grew as the conversation flowed around her. No one asked if she wanted to place an order. It was clear she wasn't part of their circle. Seb, her husband, wasn't a politician, and without that connection, she lacked the means to access this world of wealth. Jacinta, on the other hand, had arrived. Ibier's assistant, a middle-aged man with a shiny, clean-shaven head, entered to pack up the suitcases. Ibier, with her tiger-striped false nails, pulled out her phone from her designer bag and spoke to the assistant. "Make you come in. I don't ready to go. Hurry. Quick, quick." As Ibier followed the man to the door, she glanced back at Blessing. The look on her face said it all. "This isn't for you." Blessing's chest tightened. That look from Ibiere was all too familiar. It mirrored the treatment she often received from Jacinta's new friends, political wives and women who had climbed the ladder through connections. They were women plucked from obscurity, now transformed into Madam Honorables or Mother Excellencies. Women who were plucked from some third-rate obscure law firms with little or no experience in the administration of justice, fast-tracked to become judges in the land. The ones who were promoted at work from the typing pool to directors generals in the ministry, all simply because they were spouses of politicians. Their exaggerated egos were as gaudy as the jewelry they flaunted. Blessing felt the humiliation burn. Jacinta would never understand the sting of being left behind. She was too preoccupied with rubbing her newfound wealth and status in everyone's face. Blessing sat alone in her living room, a half-empty glass of wine in hand, her thoughts spiraling. For the first time, she questioned her existence, her choices, and her life with Seb. Was he even worth it? She had fought so hard to win him, to make him hers. She had beaten Jacinta and other women vying for his attention, but for what? Her lips tightened as she poured herself another glass. She knew she should be grateful that Jacinta still allowed her into her home. After all, power and privilege often made people shed old friendships. But the Jacinta she once knew had changed. Now she looked down on her subtly but unmistakably. Who does this small Jacinta think she is? Blessing thought bitterly, gripping the stem of her wine glass. With her big house and shiny cars, no condition is permanent. I will show her. Seb will become a minister one day, and then we'll see who's bigger. Yea, yea, honorable member. But these words, fierce and angry, remained locked in her head. Later that evening, Blessing and Jacinta sat in Jacinta's luxurious living room, watching a Nollywood movie. The walls gleamed with sophistication, and the chandelier sparkled above them. Jacinta chuckled suddenly and said, "Any woman who's married to an honorable member is almost a single woman, or a political widow." Blessing laughed along, but the words stung. Jacinta continued, "Most days I only see Chris at 2 in the morning, sometimes 4. Votes in the House, party meetings everywhere." Blessing wasn't sure if Jacinta was complaining or bragging. She decided to press. "What about all the parties, the launches where you're on the high table, rubbing shoulders with the big people? The other day, your picture was on the center page. Everyone knows you now as Madam Honorable." Blessing tried to sound playful, but the words tasted bitter in her mouth. As the conversation faded into silence, Blessing's eyes drifted to the window. Outside, a canopy shielded an array of luxury cars gleaming in the sunlight. She watched a driver polishing one of the vehicles, beads of sweat glistening on his forehead. Her chest tightened as the reality of Jacinta's life hit her. Jacinta could pick any car she wanted, any day for any occasion. Blessing's mind raced. This should have been my life. This should have been my house, my cars, my privilege. Seb should have been a minister by now. My face should have been in the newspapers. My name, Blessing Green, should be gracing magazines like Ovation and Hello. Jealousy surged through her, hot and suffocating. Jacinta's voice pulled Blessing from her thoughts. "We're traveling to London next month. Through Paris, of course. Chris wants us to buy a house in London so I can visit whenever I want. Jacinta said it casually, like it was the most normal thing in the world. The words landed like heavy stones in Blessing's chest. This was her life now. Money, status, recognition, everything Blessing had ever wanted. Jacinta had it all. People hailed Jacinta. They respected her. They recognized her. They kowtowed to her. And here Blessing was, stuck in a life she no longer recognized. The realization hit her like a slap. Jacinta had everything I dreamed of, and I hate her for it.